Hey guys, welcome back to Jenny and Tony. Today we are going to update you guys on Tony's health and what's been going on. I feel like this is going to be a really long video. We'll tell the story of Tony's, health journey. That's a very positive word.
Right. That's we put that in quotations.
Makes it sound like we went to Disney World.
Yeah, exactly. No, it hasn't. But it's the opposite of Disney World.
But it is his, progress, the story behind it, and what's actually been happening. So we hope you guys will just kind of pull up with a cup of coffee or a little snack and just kind of hang out with us for a little while. We appreciate your encouragement during this time so much. Even when we weren't posting, you guys were checking on us. And we just want to say thank you so much for being so amazing and supportive.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like we have this extended family who is checking on us and praying for us and just kind of making sure we're okay. So we always appreciate that.
And thank you.
So you are a functional quadriplegic and, I feel like you had already settled into that. We were doing our life. You and I, we've been together 11 years.
Yeah.
You've been pretty independent up until that point. So I just want to ask how that's felt to you, your independence before compared to some of the things that you've given up here recently, and what kind of started all that?
Since my MD has been progressive, it was like this constant process of learning to let go. It has like spikes and plateaus. So for a little bit, I'll notice that either I'm struggling with certain things and have to adapt, or once I've learned those things, and this is the plateau part, it's a process that I can kind of settle into and say, okay, do I have to do things differently? That's like my new normal until it isn't anymore, until all of a sudden, the progression, which is a good way to put it, happens again. And I'll either get weak in a certain area or have like accidents. And that's been like the indicator where I realize, okay, now, I have to, or we have to, like refigure out how to do things now. I still felt independent. Even though I had to do things differently, it still fell on my shoulders on how to do all those old things in a new way. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You were independent in my eyes. And, you did all your own transfers. You dressed yourself. All of his bathroom stuff was independent. If there was something in a cabinet really high, I would get it for him, obviously. Or if we were traveling and the bed wasn't the right height, I would help him transfer. I mean, these are things that are variables that, you can't predict. You don't know what a situation is going to be like. But we had set our home up to be completely independent for Tony. So whatever you needed, like, we had the hardwood floors put in so that there was no carpet, and that way he can just roll around. We made sure that our master bathroom has a sink that he can roll under. He would put the toilet riser on and transfer himself onto the toilet. You got yourself dressed every morning in bed, dressing in bed. So up until this point of Tony's newer injury, which we're about to tell you about, I wouldn't really say I felt like a caregiver. I would say that I assisted you with things, but I wouldn't have said I had the caregiver hat on just yet, because I really just felt like I was there to help if you needed it, but I don't feel like I was like in a caregiving position. So I would not have called myself a caregiver by any means.
So we just gotten back from a family trip to Indiana, and we're settling in. Jen and I were having a little movie night. And
date night.
I know, Friday night date night. And I had a shoulder pain in my right shoulder. And Jen knows that I don't complain about pain. I mean, you just get used to like living with a certain degree of it. And for me to go up to Jen and tell her that, hey, I am hurting here. She knew that something was wrong. And immediately we kind of knew that it was serious. So she was just like, we got to take you in. So we get to the ER and we find out that my shoulder is dislocated.
Waited like 7 hours.
Yeah.
For him to be seen, he's in such pain.
You're right.
And his shoulder was dislocated. But it wasn't a dislocation that they were able to fix. They tried to, but it kept coming back out of socket.
Yeah.
And each time they tried to manipulate it back into socket, it was like excruciating pain for Tony. And just watching him go through that was like, oh God, it was so hard because I could just see that you were in so much pain, but he's not the type to like really cry out or scream, but silently, I could just tell that you were going through so much pain.
Yeah. And they had me on like strong painkillers too. It still hurt.
So they kept giving you injections in the shoulder, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they kept trying to put it back in socket and it wouldn't stay.
Right.
So at that point, he said that you need to see a shoulder surgeon as soon as possible. So we went home that night and, you know, you tried to sleep. They put him on a lot of pain medicines. So meanwhile, so this is when the dominoes start to fall.
Right.
So, you know, if you ever get into a health situation where one thing starts to affect another thing and another thing, well, when you have a disability, I feel like that gets exacerbated even more.
Yeah.
So, because I feel like the disability doesn't play very nicely with other factors.
No.
So we slowly started to watch these dominoes just kind of fall one by one because one thing was starting to affect the other.
Yes.
So
it was like the perfect storm.
It was the perfect storm situation for us. It was definitely the hardest thing that we have ever gone through as a couple. So, because once your shoulder wasn't working, then all the transfers stopped. You weren't able to dress yourself. You weren't able to get on the toilet.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize like how much I relied on my shoulders, but at that point where I was at with my independence, everything really, you know, from the way that I transferred, the way that I needed to, get dressed, the way I needed to get, you know, on and off the toilet and in the shower and everything. It literally hit the reset button on everything.
Yes.
And these are for like all the basic needs.
All of a sudden, you know, you're in a double shoulder sling and unable to move anything. And we have to try to figure out how to do all of these things like overnight while he's on heavy pain meds.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we had to figure out was like, how do we get you on the toilet? I would say that has been the most stressful thing about this whole situation is just figuring that out because so one of the domino effects was that the pain medicines they were giving him were messing up his stomach. And so that was causing, so Tony has neurogenic bowel, but only partially. So if you know anything about, which we barely know anything about this.
This is all learning.
This is all stuff we're just now learning.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But we're learning about how when you have like any kind of paralysis, which Tony has like a functional, you know, it's like functional quadriplegia. So he does have feeling in his legs, but it's like there's things that have function and there's things that don't, right? And so his bowels are one of the things that are affected. So he has what's called neurogenic bowel. So he's not really going to be able to perfectly control about how and when to have a bowel movement. The signals aren't always firing exactly how they would. And then there's also, you know, sometimes he'll get constipated, which is a very common problem. And so these pain meds were messing so much with his stomach. And then the hospital had put him on a lot of Miralax, which, okay, for him, you know, without having to be able to control everything down there, the Miralax was a nightmare because, you know, poor Tony was having accident after accident after accident while he was in pain and while he was just sleeping on pain meds.
Yeah.
So sometimes the accidents would be like on the way to the bathroom with me trying to get him as quickly as I can, which isn't very quickly, onto the toilet. Tony is 6'2", over 200 pounds. I am me. So it was very interesting to say the least. We had a lot of accidents.
Yes.
So we just we did the best we could, but you know, we were relying on like every source we could think of.
Exactly.
Like I had the bedpan, you know, just in case I needed to go really quick. We had the diapers in case we were trying to prevent.
Yeah, and equipment that we didn't have at the time that we do now.
Yeah. We had reached out to our church, and, you know, they were keeping us on their prayer list and stuff. So we had people checking on us.
Yeah.
Our good friend Kayla was a huge support, and she checked on us every day. And she and a friend of hers, Matt, were able to get us the Hoyer lift through the church. And then Matt even helped with transfers as well, several transfers, as we were getting used to how to work things, and even before we had the Hoyer lift. So having that was a huge blessing. It was a big game changer for us.
But it was a couple of weeks that we had to like figure this out without the Hoyer lift.
Exactly.
And those were like the hardest weeks that we've ever gone through. So, you know, just lots of nightmarish situations involving.
Yeah, mentally, physically for both of us.
Involving lots of things.
Well, you know, you add the fact that there's an urgency to it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's the unpredictability.
Yes.
When everything's going to kick in and you got to go and all. That to avoid anything getting worse, like a situation getting worse, go into the bathroom right then and there. You have to act fast. And Jen, you know, you put yourself in a lot of positions and situations where you got physically hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I did. Well, we had some, you know, unique problems because he was just struggling so bad with his stomach issues, but then he also had to where he was sleeping because he was on so much pain medicine that he wasn't really drinking. So I would wake you up like every couple hours and just give you sips of water.
Dehydration.
Yeah, extreme dehydration. And he could barely even wake up to even drink it. So I know that was contributing to like the constipation.
Exactly.
But it was just this vicious cycle that we couldn't get out of, where it was like he needs the pain meds, but they're messing up his stomach. They're dehydrating him. And we just go through this over and over. And we just weren't getting anywhere.
Right.
So in a 3-week period, Tony ended up in the ER 4 times, in the hospital 2 times, and in the ICU once.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 3 weeks, we were just...
I was living in the hospital.
He was living in the hospital. And it was really, really difficult. You just could not get a break with your shoulder pain. And then when he was in the ICU, the reason he went in the ICU was the doctor came up and told me, you know, his kidneys aren't functioning well. His pancreas isn't functioning well. He said, I'm really worried about your husband. And I just burst into tears because I couldn't figure out why it kept getting worse. Even though we were home, I was taking care of you. We were doing everything they were telling us to do.
Yeah.
But it just was not going well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We went from like one extreme to the other because having dealt with the constipation side and then all of a sudden being, you know, put in that situation of now worrying about the extreme opposite of not being able to hold it in, because you go from like not being able to push it out to not being able to hold it in. And not only because of the Miralax, but because of the stress. So the stress also was a big, contributor into this as well. And so once that dam let loose, it was just a tricky, it was a slippery slope. We'll say that. And,
I'm getting like flashbacks and PTSD with that language.
No, I know exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
It's funny that you mentioned that because it was trauma.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. It was trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
trauma. I would have to be in charge of making sure you were okay and like calling 911, because we called 911 like every other day.
Yeah.
So I would call 911 whenever we needed the medical attention, but then I would also be in charge of getting the kids out because I didn't want Alex to be afraid. Our son's only 4. We have 2 older kids, and I would, say, "Oh, can you run him to the playground? Can y'all go play?" This was before it was too hot to go play.
Yeah.
And, just get them out of the house. Or our daughter drives, so I would say, "Can you go get them a snowball, while I call 911?" And that was just happening over and over and over, where I was like setting up a diversion, calling 911. They would come in, take Tony out in a stretcher, put him in an ambulance. Our neighbors were checking, like, what is going on? The ambulance is in our neighborhood almost every night.
Right.
And it was just, it was just really a lot. It was a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't remember being as afraid, not just for myself, but for everybody, like at any other point in my entire life. Because when you have these doctors coming in and out and they're giving you these numbers and they're shaking their head and all that, and it's not just a wake-up call. Because when you're swept up in this, it's hard to not see past being at ground level. And this is really one of those things that you need to like take a step back and like really get like the eagle's eye view of it to say, okay, this is what you have to think about. This is what you have to think about. This is what you have to think about. And that's scary in and of itself when you have to like look at all the factors that have come into play. How it felt was terrifying, and that's not being dramatic at all. There's a lot of childhood trauma associated with hospitals for me and my dad, but there I was, I was in and out for basically the month of June.
Yeah, it was pretty much the whole month.
Yeah.
And I would come in and feed him all of his meals because, they had him set up to where he couldn't eat himself because, they had him reclined so much that he couldn't like get his arm up to feed him. And sometimes I always thought the nurse would do it. Like if I was doing something with Alex or just one of the kids, I figured the nurse would step in and do that, but not necessarily. There was a lot of times where they were so busy that they couldn't come in and feed Tony his meals. So I just made sure to try to visit him. Like, let's say he was in a regular room, I would make sure and visit like at the meal times and then just stay. So if I had to leave, I didn't want to leave you during the meal times because I felt like you wouldn't get, even though you were on a liquid diet,
right.
I felt like, no one would give it to you, so, and sometimes you couldn't even reach the call button.
Oh,
so, I mean, we had one nurse really nice who set up like a call button for him, like an extender. So that was really super sweet. And some of them went out of their way, to help him. And then others would kind of treat him like a normal patient. And I just kept having to say, like, he's a quadriplegic. Don't forget, please, turn him so he doesn't get pressure sores. Please, help him with his meals. Please make sure he can reach his call button. Those are the things that I was there to do because you were kind of out from the pain meds.
Exactly. And to feel like every shift I had to explain how to handle myself to somebody new. It was like, oh, this again, it was like, where's so and so from? They don't work tonight or they're off the rest of the week. I'm like, great, and you get like and then you get into this whole spiel of how to advocate for yourself. That's that mentality right there of trying to fix the issue myself or either not complain and just get through it. That's where I had to learn to stop doing that and just say, hey, like you actually do need help in this situation. And this is something you cannot do for yourself now. And that's still a really bitter pill to swallow. But that's just where I'm at right now, where we're at right now. Is conceding to that fact. So when I did get home, Jen was officially my full-time caregiver. Do you want to talk a little bit about all that?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's when I was aware that I was now the full-time caregiver. And okay, so by the time you got home from the hospital, because in between hospital stays was only like a day or two. So I just kind of figured things out. It was not easy. I injured myself a few times, but we made it through somehow. But once you were home and you seemed to be staying home for at least a week,
yes,
we had to figure out something. And the lift that the church had ordered, I think it was like 4 days away from arriving because it was an Amazon thing. So we knew we had like 4 days where if you didn't go in the hospital, that means I had to really figure something out. I was injured at that time. I had hurt my back and I had sciatica. And I was just kind of like in bad shape from some previous transfers. And so the church was so kind enough to say, like, instead of setting up like a meal train, why don't we set up like a caregiving train where we send some like strong guys over to like, help with some of the caregiving and just take that load off of you while you recover. And I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was a wonderful idea. But having thought about it, some other friends of ours said, that might not work out too well because nobody will be trained on how to be a caregiver. And I don't know if you knew this, but the fire department is trained on how to do transfers. That's part of their job. So if it's only for a few days, why don't we just see if we can set up, a schedule? Because some of the firefighters live in our neighborhood. So maybe just set up a schedule where they can just come in the morning real quick and help Tony get to the bathroom and things like that. Big, strong men who are trained in transfers. So that actually sounded like a good idea. That way nobody from the church gets hurt doing it or hurts Tony doing it, because there's some liability there. So that sounded really, really good. So we agreed to that, and we had our first fireman, transfer party, I guess,
right.
where, 3 firemen came to our house in the morning and said that they were here to help Tony in the bathroom. Well, the interesting thing about that was that they weren't actually able to really do it. So they said that they were struggling, that he was really heavy and big and tall. And they said it was 3 of them. And they said that if they kept trying, they were afraid they were going to get injured. So they were going to call 2 more guys. So we ended up with 5 people at our house trying to get Tony onto the toilet.
Crammed in that tiny bathroom.
Crammed into our bathroom. And I'm just like, okay, if this many people, these young, strong firefighters cannot do it, then how am I supposed to do this? And it was just one of those moments where I felt like despair. I felt like so hopeless. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And, they did get you on the toilet that day. I had to get him off, but they did get him on, and then they left. And I remember sitting here in this room and just crying because I thought, like, I don't think they're going to come back. And sure enough, one of the guys, on his way out said, I'm sorry, I don't think we can do this anymore because we might get injured. And I didn't tell Tony at first that they said that because I didn't want to upset him, but it really upset me. So after that, I just said, you know what? I'll do it. I will do it. I will figure out how to do this. And you know what? I did it. And it, looking back on it, might not have been the smartest thing, but I did it. And I really think it was a combination of like adrenaline, willpower, and maybe love. If these grown men can't do it, I'm going to do it. Kind of like that thing. Because because that's the kind of little girl I was when I was little. I was, trying to outperform all my boy cousins. So I think that little girl came out in me and was like, I can do this. I don't need a man.
And she did.
And I did.
She did.
I did. It wasn't pretty. I didn't do like the best. It wasn't the prettiest transfers, but we got him on and off safely.
Yes.
It did work.
Yes.
And then when the lift came, it was, it was a blessing because then I could finally just strap him into the lift and, carry him over. Let the machine do the work.
It took the physical burden, off of, like trying to manipulate a 200 plus pound man.
I think the reason I was able to do that was because we have been together for so long.
Oh, yeah.
Like I told you that one day, like when I got you on the toilet successfully and we were both just like, yes, it was like the coolest day ever. We were so empowered. And I remember telling you like, the only reason we were able to do this is because I know your body.
Yes.
Like it's been 11 years. I know your body. Like I might not know how to be, I might not be trained like the firefighters were. I might not be trained like a nurse is, but like I know Tony's body. And I think that's what got us through, troubleshooting all that.
Oh, yeah.
Because we worked together.
Yes.
We worked together to figure out a way. Even though I'm not as strong as they are, we found a way, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, it was really cool.
And I know it boosted our confidence.
It got us through that little 5-day stint until we got the lift.
Yeah.
And
And then we started to think that everything was getting better and going in the right direction. And I remember sitting out here with Nathan. We were all talking and laughing and joking. And I took a moment of gratitude. And I just, kind of looked at y'all and I was like, things are getting better. Tony is feeling better. Like he hasn't been to the hospital in a week. This is wonderful. Oh my goodness. This is wonderful. We are going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then your blood pressure dropped and we had to call 911 again. And he ended up in the ICU. And that was the scariest day of them all. So, that wasn't fun. I did not like seeing you in the ICU.
Right. For them
really
to say, for them to tell me that that's where I'd be admitted, that you know, especially after coming on the tail end of all of that. Yeah, because if I never went within 5 miles of another hospital for the rest of my life, I would have been happy.
Yes.
But here I was having to go into
intensive care.
Right, intensive care. Yeah.
And then when you got home, we knew we needed to find a shoulder surgeon. It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, exactly. Tongue twister.
So, and the first two we met with actually would not work on Tony's shoulder because of his disability, because it was just a complicated shoulder surgery and they just weren't really comfortable.
Right.
With the complications, you know, working on you. So we struggled to find someone that would work on him. We do have a consultation in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
And we are hoping that this doctor will perform the surgery.
Exactly.
On paper, he's saying that, yes, this looks like something he'd be willing to do and able to do. But once we meet him in person, we'll know for sure. So that update is still to be had. We don't know how that's going to go yet. But we're really hoping.
I know. Like those little things, like taking care of like my basic needs and all that. I see that as being independent. And for me to have given up all that in such a short period of time, literally within hours from that first ER visit, when you're just unable to do any of that without feeling excruciating pain. It's a lot to process. I was just used to, you know, doing like getting on and off the toilet and dressing myself and doing all these little things. When you have to rely on somebody else, you're aware of like every second, really. So now Jen, as my full-time caregiver, gets me dressed in the mornings, does all the bathroom routines with the transfers to and off the toilet, to and off the wheelchair from the bed, setting me up in the bed, showering, shampooing my hair.
I think that goes with showering.
Yeah, well, because we do like the, we wash my hair in the sink, you know.
Yeah. Like on the non-shower days.
Yes, on the non-shower days.
True.
And
we've been doing things for your swelling. So we've been doing compression socks.
We didn't talk about that.
Okay, so he did have a lot of swelling as well. So that's like another medical issue, I guess. It's called edema, I think.
Yes.
But he's had a lot of swelling. So you'll see that, or you did see that in the pedicure video. Like when we did the spa day, we were trying to handle the swelling.
Yeah.
So he's been having some swelling like from the knee down. And so, you know, I've been putting those compression stockings on him just to try to help with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just do like the regular caregiving routines, I guess. You know, Tony has a bowel program, you know, that we'll probably do a whole video around to show you guys like how he goes to the bathroom and tries to prevent accidents and things like that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, just all the things that we do like medically and mobility wise, just to keep you in the best health that we can.
Exactly.
I'm learning how to do it, and, you know, I'm getting better as time goes on. I'm not perfect at it, but I am getting better and I'm learning.
Yeah. As we learn and share, you know, from other people in the community as well.
Yeah.
So,
we're not going to do everything right or perfect, but like we'll just share how we're doing it. And then if it helps someone else, then that's awesome.
Yeah, like a big think tank. So,
yeah, it is like a think tank, because it's not that I ever found one video that we could copy from YouTube,
perfect.
you know, that was like, oh, we could just use this in our life and it's perfect. But we would take little pieces of each one, and we would take, you know, an idea from this video, another idea from this video, and you take it all and you construct your own kind of custom, you know, method.
Yeah, because
YouTube's awesome for that.
Oh my God, yeah. And if there's anything that we have learned, it's how to adapt. You know,
That's
you're
good.
given like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but it's up to you to make it work for you. And we've done that. So
we really have. You know.
Yeah. And if we can figure it out, trust me, you know. Yeah. There are answers to every problem. There
are, and it boosts your confidence when you figure it out for yourself and are able to move on. It might not be easy, but it is definitely a confidence booster for sure. And it draws you together in the end.
It does.
You know, because I feel closer to you since we've gone through all this.
Definitely. And for this woman to say that, you know, she was in the trenches with me, I mean, that's
Foxhole buddies.
Foxhole buddies. So that without my voice cracking, foxhole buddies. I can't do it. Yeah. But I couldn't imagine anybody else in the entire universe that would have the patience and the love, you know, to get through this. And it's something to get through, you know, because it's not all dark days and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
Those are meant to get through, and they make you stronger. They make you stronger. Things that I used to do that I don't do anymore, mindsets,
Yeah.
And all that you just learn to have to like let go, and you become a different person.
Sometimes you need to like do a transplant and say, okay, what mindset do I need to survive this? And I remember doing that with you.
Yeah.
And we had both changed.
Oh, yeah.
And we've changed how we communicate to each other. Like, we could do a whole nother video on how it affected our marriage and the strain that it put on our marriage and, you know, the trauma around that.
Yeah.
So, and not just this past couple months, but like, because you had some health issues even before that,
yeah.
you know, and we had some family struggles. We had some serious family struggles that, you know, the details are private, but like it affected us, you know, and so through this last year, and I'm sure if anyone, you know, if y'all have gone through like a really difficult year or like several traumatic things in a row, you know that it changes you, you know, either for better or for worse. It will change you.
It's scary.
Yeah. So if you are in a situation where, you know, you feel things are spiraling or you see the dominoes going down and you're just feeling, you know, scared or hopeless or in despair, you know, we want to tell you you're not alone. And we want to tell you that we love you, we support you, and we believe in you to get through it. You're going to make it. Just reach out, find the community that you need. I hope we can be a part of that community. You know, we love you guys and we want to make sure that y'all feel supported, and we appreciate the support that you give us.
Yeah.
We hope to make lots more videos. Like, we have so many ideas. So, you know, just keep this guy in good health so that we can make them.
Yes.
And we'll keep you guys updated about, you know, all the different, you know, health updates that will come in the future, like with his shoulder and some other things that we're looking into right now. And thank you so much for not giving up on us. Thank you for coming back to see if we have a new video. Just thanks for being a part of our community. And if you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you'll introduce yourself in the comments so we can get to know you a little better.
Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
And take care of each other. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, my love, you're such a fragile thing, I know. And with the winter comes the ice, the snow, but I'm here to hold. And oh, my love, the seasons come and they go, but I hold